set, and she kind of went to bed. So she's not here today. So if you send good wishes to her, so I think she's got some kind of a...
Okay, she's okay?
Some kind of bug. Yeah. I guess she threw up. She got dizzy and sweaty and threw up, and I guess she's still nauseous.
And she did say she ate
There's something going
spicy
around.
Indian food that day before.
Oh, didn't hear that. Like a delayed turmeric reaction or something?
We have three. You said there's some new people. No.
No, I think she said we have some guests.
Okay. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you're from and if you've ever been, if you have any connection with Dharma and Buddhism and those things.
So, my name is Jessica. My name is Ella. We're from Germany and we've been traveling for like 5 months now in Costa Rica. We're volunteering here for 1.5 weeks and then we're going back. But we don't have anything with Dharma.
Well, you do, you just don't know it yet.
You're gonna have to be my sidekick. Welcome.
Yeah, we stayed with them.
How long will you be here?
1.5 weeks.
Okay, 1.5 weeks. Good.
Does anyone have an update on, speaking of Mac?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I only know a little. Does someone know more than a little?
What's a little? I may know a little more, but
What? Jennifer,
well, I just know that he's still recovering.
In the hospital?
He's still in the hospital. He was supposed to start rehab, but I'm not sure if he did. We've heard him on the phone because we've had some video chat or some audio chats with him, and he sounds strong and he sounds good. He sounds upbeat. So
He's not having any rejection issues?
not that we know of.
Seems to be progressing well.
From what I understand, he spends 2 weeks in the ICU to see about rejection and stuff, but we don't know
Yeah.
for sure. It's just,
Yeah.
but everything seems to be going pretty well.
Yeah.
You're manning the fort.
We're manning the fort. Yep. Sharon had some laptop issues that she's getting sorted.
All's good.
Everything's
Great to hear, thanks.
Can we help you guys in any way?
not that we know of right now, but thank you for the offer, and if we need any help, we'll certainly reach out.
Tana, would you highlight the Tuesday? Can you highlight
The meeting?
that? Yeah, because there might be people
Sure.
that need to know that information.
Sure. So I'm a member of AA. We started a meeting like 8 or 9 months ago now at Happy House, Tuesday at 4. All are welcome. It is an open meeting. So anybody with any concerns about family or friends is also welcome. You don't necessarily have to be alcoholic yourself. We had a Spanish newcomer last week, which was super heartwarming, and that's happened 3 times now, where Spanish speakers had walked in, and none of us really speak Spanish, but we hack away and try and make them feel welcome, and also connect them with the Spanish stuff that's going on in Nita. There's a couple of great Spanish meetings there, and maybe get them some literature in Spanish and things like that, try and get them started. So there's that. But there's also, except for Thursday, there is an AA meeting in the Southern Zone every day of the week. Mostly my mornings or noontime, couple in Dominical, couple in Uvita, one in Namaste. So if that's not convenient for you here, or somebody in the zone, you can reach us, I think, through Happy House. Is that right? Which will get to me, and then I can get you to the meeting list if necessary.
So you're really nice. Then about 8 or 9 people who come in later.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Really happy about it.
All right. Well, let's get started. I'm solo today. It's always me. I think it only happened one other time in 8 years.
You got this.
So good morning and welcome to the Dharma group. This is Everyday Dharma with a little bit of a Western bent. And then Then we have some, about once a month now, we have the Lama and Carolina come in, and that gives you a little flavor of a parallel track, which is closer to Tibetan Buddhism. And so those two tracks are same Dharma, same Eightfold Path, just a little different emphasis and a little different way of presenting this beautiful material that we spend with every week. So today is about altruism, generosity. And so what I thought we would do is we'd do a silent meditation for 2-3 minutes. And I'd like you to just center your thoughts only on that idea. If you understand what altruism is, you can center on that word. Generosity and giving become serving. And these are all parallel words. So let's do 3 minutes. And so close your eyes or keep them open if you would like. Try to get all the distractions that have happened so far today. Leave those alone. Leave them behind. Follow your breath. Like when you're breathing in, think gratitude. When you're breathing out, think generosity. Gratitude, generosity. want to come up, there's some room here. Anybody want
Stack of
to
pillows.
move? We have some other cushions as well.
Yeah, there's
If you'd
cushions
like
over
to,
here.
feel free.
Get on in.
I can't hear, so.
Yeah,
Get on in
come
here.
in. There's some cushions over here. We're all good. My voice carries a little bit better than Ruthie's. With age, Ruthie's gotten a little harder to hear. So, but I'm still a loudmouth.
And we love that about you.
I grew up in a family with 4 women. I needed to learn to speak up. Because they were speaking at me, so I needed to speak up. Last week, if you were here, the Lama did a short section on mirages that really made me think, and I was taking notes because I learned best by taking notes, and he was really talking about the game that Mirage is playing with us. And then he related it to people who have a lot, riches in one form or another, and that it appears that there is water, and then you get there and you are not satisfied. I thought it was a beautiful, I had not thought in those terms before. It reminded me of, I actually really know my Bible. It's amazing. My background has those things have stuck with me, and it reminded me of the very first song that I ever wrote, which was from the words of Isaiah 55 in the Old Testament. I'm not going to tell you the whole circumstance, but it was a very distressing circumstance that happened in my high school years. And I opened my Bible, and Isaiah 55 fell open, and I wrote a song about the distress that I was feeling. Here's a little bit how it goes. Everyone who thirsts, come to the waters. You who have no money, come by and eat. Why do you spend your money for what is not bread, and your wages for what does not satisfy? Really powerful words about life, and it fit very, it just came to mind as the Lama was talking about the promises often that we seek out, the riches that we seek out, not just wealth, but the riches that we seek out, and then sometimes we get there and we realize that it was a mirage. It didn't fulfill what we had hoped it would. People say that they love their new car for a week, and then they take it for granted. And so there's so many examples of that idea. So what does last? What does satisfy? Where is the real water? I think this talk brings up some ideas connected to that. Why are we here?
What's happening?
Dogs.
We know why Rob is here.
I don't know whose dogs, but I'll go figure it out.
Okay.
Sorry.
Right? Yeah. Why are we here, and what do we do while we're here? I used to do therapy with teenagers, and it became clear to me that there was really only 2 big questions that teenagers were searching for. And I think they're like questions as well. Who am I? And where do I fit? Where do I belong? The Dharma seems to talk. The Buddha seems to talk. Jesus seems to talk. Saints seem to talk. Psychology seems to talk. That a piece of our existence where real happiness is found is when we give it away. I still remember from The Sound of Music, love isn't love till you give it away. Richard Rogers and Oscar Hammerstein. All of these disciplines are saying that to be beyond ourselves and to think of the welfare and the generosity that we might have for others is a key to life, is a key to answer those questions, why are we here? I have done therapy with a lot of people. I'm not getting to my notes yet, interestingly, because I have much to say before I get to the notes. I have a lot of people over the years as a therapist who are struggling with their selves, their relationships, how it's going, their finances, their mental health, their chemical health. And it's really interesting that we come to a point, and then you might have, come to a point in the therapy, and all of a sudden it appears that there's something missing in that just getting through this and getting to the other side of it. And that piece is, what will you do for others? And it is even a piece in the middle of stress, crisis, mental health. That the balance of what do I need to do for myself to get whole, healthy, is important to give energy to. But unless you find the other piece, it's a bit of a mirage. It's a bit unsatisfying. Why am I here? I'm here to make sure that I am generous to myself. A lot of us have that part down. I do. Maybe I should just speak for myself. But how will I get beyond that? In psychology, I'm going to get to Buddhist ideas, by the way. In psychology, there's a system of understanding how dynamics work called ecosystem. Ecosystem. Do you remember this one from your training? Okay. Ecosystemics, it appears like a pond. If you visualize what it's talking about, it said your life is a pond. Streams are flowing in, streams are flowing out. If you want a clean pond, you receive the flowing in, and you release what needs to go out. And that creates a clean pond. Stagnant ponds are trouble. Maybe not for frogs and mosquitoes, but stagnant ponds are not healthy. There might be water flowing in, but there's no outlet. And also there are ponds that dry up. They've lost the ability to receive and to take in. That's a bit of what this talk is about. It is not about that you should give yourself away. It would be good though, some. It's about balance. How will I make sure that I am fed? How will I feed others? they do this, do they not with the oxygen mask? You love your child, you need oxygen, put yours on first, then give to your child. I'm not sure which is first, the chicken or the egg in the airplane. It makes sense, and those things, but some kind of balance between giving and giving to yourself and giving to others seems healthy and equals systemic. The Lama last week in that section led into the idea that there is deceptive things which draw us in, of which we give energy to, and they're unproductive. I'm just going to go to my material now. I really like this stuff. There are people in the room that represent this perfectly. Many of you represent this feeling. So just let this be an encouragement. What does altruism mean? Generosity, becoming a servant. Serving. Selfless concern for the well-being of others. The opposite of egoism. Buddhism talks a lot about the dangers of inflated ego. So, the altruism idea was popularized by a French philosopher, Auguste Comte. Have you ever read this philosopher? He did this, I think, back a couple centuries ago. And here's his definition. Altruism is when an individual performs an action at the cost to themselves that benefits directly or indirectly another individual without expectation of reciprocity or compensation for that action. That's a mouthful, actually. A bunch of things about that. That there's a cost in time, attention, energy. There's a cost to giving. I do therapy 2 days a week, and it's 6-7 clients, and then I take a nap. My head is swimming with what's happened that day as I've tried to stay with people. And I've had enough. No more. I don't text Diane back about the happiness project with that one. I'm like, nope, blow it off, nap time. Because at that point, there's been a cost to doing that for me. This benefits the goal of that cost is directly or indirectly that another person would benefit. And then the expectation is zero. It's not short therapy. People have to pay me. So that's not entirely altruistic. There are a few that are good. Effective altruism is the use of evidence and reason to determine what ways are most productive to benefit others. It's skillful, it's thoughtful, it's reasonable to think about what is the most productive way to benefit others. In the addiction field, to do nothing is sometimes the best gift. Yes?
Totally.
I've person. Not always the best gift, but sometimes that's the best gift. To do nothing because there's something that needs to happen for the other person. So to always give, I want to take it into the parenting realm. Most kids know that they have their parents by the tail, or think they do. It's their job. And if a parent just continues to give, set no boundaries, no rules, just continue to give. On the surface that appears just like saintly. But they're not doing their kid any benefit. I want to go to a Buddhist story. And I don't know the answer, I'm just putting the question out there. For the first 20 years of the Buddha's life, his family in the palace kept him away from all the suffering of the world. Secluded. Did they do him a service? You don't know, but it's a very interesting question. In the United States, if you live in a middle class or above neighborhood and your kids interact with everybody who's just like them and goes to a private school where everybody believes like them, are you doing your kid a benefit? Let's just leave the question. So this giving has to be skillful. It reminds me so much of the Buddhist idea that we go with the flow skillfully. You guys haven't been here, but there's 3 ways of stream, of living life. Swimming upstream against the current, losing battle. Floating willy-nilly downstream and banging yourself or going over the waterfall and destroying some things. Or floating skillfully downstream, watching what's coming ahead and navigate through it, around it, within that. This is, giving is a very skillful thing. It's going with the nature of things. Even your Buddha nature is a giving nature. Let's go to Charles Dickens. The most famous Charles Dickens?
Great Expectations.
Well, the one that all the plays are done at Christmas.
Christmas.
What's it called again?
A Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol. It's a story about keeping everything for yourself or learning generosity and seeing generosity and having it right. Simple story, over and over, taught at Christmas. So many disciplines talk about the balance of this. I could apply this all day long to how questions that I have about how we live our lives. Let me give you one more because I can't stop this one. So, if your Chico worker or your Chico worker lives in a house with a dirt floor, should you give them more money? I don't know that answer. As they come and clean your beautiful house. How do we do this really practically in our lives? How do we become skillful givers? I'm not here to make you all feel guilty, by the way. But these are great questions about how we apply generosity. In Buddhism, the practice of dana, Is it Dana or Dana? Anybody know?
Done.
I've heard Dana.
Dana, which in Pali means giving, self-sacrificing giving, has a preeminent place in the teachings of the Buddha. Ruthie brought this up one time when we were on this topic, and so I took it from her notes, that when the Buddha went routinely to talk to new recruits who were going to be monks or involved in a life of service, this is what he talked about first. He talked about a life of giving. He didn't talk about foreknowing truths. He didn't talk about all kinds of beautiful material he had available. He knew that until they heard this and got this, the other material had no foundation, even though it was foundation. And so, out of his skillful giving to them, he gave them what he thought was the most basic thing that they needed to hear first. And that was generosity and life of giving, a life of service, a life of sacrifice, a life of enormous rewards. This is a companion to the three right intentions that the Buddha talked about. Letting go, goodwill, doing no harm. Those are all companion issues with this idea about generosity. I'm not going to get to all my material today. It's also a companion, gratitude. Actually, Diane, will you say to the group what you wrote to me this morning about the topic?
About gratitude, energizing generosity.
Yeah. If the energy of generosity, which we're talking about, comes from gratitude. It does. They feed each other. It's all circular. Another companion to this idea of giving is about balance, which we've alluded to here. Poise, balance, where you create the space for things to unfold in a timely manner. There's a lot of patience in that idea. A lot of non-pressure. A companion is a balance, that there's a time to give and a time to not give, which also has an Old Testament root. Solomon. If you have a Jewish background, this is perfect today. I'm just getting right on it. Don't worry, we'll get to Jesus. A companion is equanimity, where there is a time where you will know that you need to give. And there will be a time when you will know that this is not the right time to give. It's also the antidote to the three poisons that the Buddha talked about. Greed, hatred, delusion. If you don't want to live like a hungry ghost, if you don't want to dislike people to the point of hatred or life, if you don't want to be ignorant and delusional, practice generosity. See where it takes you. It also is the first of the 6 paramitas that the Buddha talked about. The perfections. One of the writers said those two mean far-reaching attitudes. Generosity is the very first one. It involves discretion. When is it appropriate to give? When is it appropriate not to give? 2, with things we own, the second pair, that idea of generosity in the Paramitas is to practice generosity with the things we own and with the things that nobody owns. It's a very interesting idea. So that what we see is ours, we are meant to be generous with. What we see is available to everyone, we should be generous with. What is someone else's, we shouldn't be generous with. I want to give an example of that middle one, which is, I think, is really interesting with things that nobody owns. The country of Costa Rica is very generous to all of us here with its beaches. Nobody can buy a beach. Nobody can own a beach. This is meant for the public good. So when you bring or give to someone the beach, you're giving it from the territory of something that nobody owns, that is available to everyone else. So our generosity applies to us and what it is that we have of our time and our talents. It also applies to the whole area. How many of you really want people to visit Costa Rica so they have this experience? That's this, the middle idea. You don't own Costa Rica. You might own a little piece. You might have a corporation in your own little corner of the world. But the country is open for everyone, and if it's been beneficial to you and you're generous, you want others to come. The other thing about generosity is it's beyond thoughts and intentions. It's about acting. To think about being generous, sweet. To plan being generous, sweet. You want the real chocolate bar, don't do it. You'll be changed. The secondary thing that happens when you're generous. If you give it with no expectation of return, you get returns. Fourth thing about generosity, according to the Paramitas, it involves getting your hands dirty. It's messy. It's easier to stay away. How many of you have volunteered for the dog shelter here? Messy. Super messy. How many of you have volunteered for the Happiness Project? Super messy. It is. Half the time we're a mess, like, what will we do now? You know, it's messy to get involved and to be generous. It's safer, it's easier, it's less risk to pull back and to not. There's an intangible that I'm alluding to here, and that is, only by giving are you able to receive more than you already have. Think about that phrase. Only by giving are you able to receive more than you already have. You want to live abundantly? Give. Jesus said, if someone takes your coat, takes your shirt, give them your coat. These are radical words. Okay. Give them your coat. Give them your shirt. Offer them your coat. We have taught in the Dharma that it's an illusion that we own stuff. It's a mirage. There will come a time when we don't own it. If you own a property here, if the government changes in Costa Rica, maybe they want your property. You'll have to vacate. Calculated risk coming to Costa Rica, that hasn't happened for 150 years. So you're like, odds are, we're okay. But no guarantees. It could all be a mirage that you're going to give this to your kids and to your kids' kids and your kids' kids. So the intangibles of this are very, very interesting. I want to tell a really weird joke. There was a guy who lived a very stingy life, like a Scrooge kind of person. Never did anything for anybody else, kept all his stuff for himself, and he died. So he went on the down escalator. There wasn't, in this story, there was an up escalator. By the way, Buddhists don't teach this stuff. Okay, so this is just an illustration for another idea. But the man hated it when he landed at the bottom of the down escalator and could see up to where the up escalator went. So he kept yelling up there, I need to come there. And one day it dawned on him that this wasn't working, and he yelled up the escalators and said, I gave a carrot to a bum one time, remember? On a string, a carrot comes down. So he grabs onto the carrot, he goes, okay, I got my wish. So as he's rising up, the other people at the bottom start to grab onto him. They think that they can also go up with the carrot. And the man says to them, get off of my carrot! And the string breaks. An illustration of the karma that follows us. Don't take that story too seriously. You can if you'd like to, but I'm not teaching that. What do you think so far about this? I have one more page, just quotes. Do you want to do the quotes and then we'll talk about this? Okay, here's the quotes. So many sources talking about generosity. The Buddha first. Teach this triple truth to all. A generous heart, kind speech, and a life of service and compassion are the things which will renew humanity. A generous heart, kind speech, and a life of service and compassion. An anonymous quote, generosity overcomes meanness. Oh, no, this is the Buddha as well. Generosity overcomes meanness. Also the Buddha, give even if you only have a little. It's not about the quantity. A different aspect of giving, attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. To give someone your attention. We just generally don't. Do you realize that? We generally are preoccupied. This is the Western mind. Busy, busy, busy squirrel on the hamster wheel. And so to give someone attention is to stop and to give them what might be our best gift to them. Gandhi. Generosity consists not in the sum given, but in the manner in which it is bestowed. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. That's Solomon. This is just straight from the psychology books. Generosity is what keeps the things I own from owning me. It's a really good one. Generosity keeps the things that I own from owning me. Winston Churchill. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. It's a good one. To know when to be generous and when firm, this is wisdom. That's an anonymous source, but a good one. To know when to be generous and when to be firm, this is wisdom. Again, the Buddha, being generous and kindly in speech, doing a good turn for others, treating all alike, then our lives will prosper. Finally, the Boy Scouts. Do a good turn daily is the Boy Scout slogan. Their Boy Scout motto is be prepared. And if you're in the Scouts, is the Girl Scouts same? Is it same? Do the same, exact same too. So everybody's talking about it. Everybody who's wise is talking about the value of this. So I have a couple of questions for us to kind of center on. And that is, how is generosity, your experience of being generous? Think of your generous nature and the expression of it. How has that paid off for others and for you? How has being generous in your life paid off for others and for you? An example.
Well, I would say for me, and I've never experienced this before, is coming to Costa Rica and sounds so cliche, and teaching Zumba, but then giving the donations that I make to, it used to be El Refugio, but now we're helping the kids in the community with camp, and that has brought me, I almost feel guilty about how much pleasure it's brought me. I've never experienced this before in my life, and it is a very deep feeling that I didn't know I had, and it's just changed my life.
Beautiful. In a couple of aspects, what by the people coming and you give them your talent, which is a very energized, beautiful talent that you're giving to the lady. Is it all ladies?
There's the odd man.
Yeah, there's an odd man.
Odd man at the Zumba class.
But then what you do with that in the end, beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It creates a community, and it's really beautiful.
Someone else.
I had one that was kind of an outlier for me, is that I caught wind that a kid was graduating from my high school, and I knew the parents really well, and this kid was on some sort of spectrum. I don't know actually him well enough to know which one. And then, so he graduated from the high school, maybe 10 years. It took him 10 years longer than the average person. And in what resonated was this notion of giving your attention. And all I did was send a card and a gift, a graduation gift. And I remember after that, the parents never forgot that. Because it was out of the blue, it was an outlier for me. And it just endeared me to them, which I didn't expect in return. It was just a momentary thing. It was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what that kid accomplished. You know, and I loved his parents. You know, she taught me tennis when I was in 8th grade or something like that. I grew up in a small town in Florida. And yeah, and it wasn't much, but it meant a lot to that kid and his parents. I mean, I don't know if he even really comprehended it as much as the parents did. Yeah.
I think the happiest I've ever been in my lifetime was when I was running Tripod, the Tripod Foundation. Just, you know.
Explain to people what that
Well,
is.
it was an animal welfare group, and we did spay and neuter clinics, but we also had money for Ticos who had an animal that needed an operation or whatever. So it was just, you know, it was a ton of work, and I was exhausted all the time. But it was so satisfying. But more recently, there's a indigenous family in my neighborhood that I just adore, and through Tripod, they would always call, like when there was some kind of a wild animal, they'd call me and say, you know, we need help. And so I got to know them, and anyway, the other day I saw him walking, and I stopped and said, you know, what happened? Because his bicycle is his only mode of transportation. And, the bike broke down, and blah, blah, blah. So I went and bought him a bike. And it wasn't a lot of money to me, but to him, it's a way of getting to work to support his family. And it was just, honest to God, when I see him riding his bike, it's not a brand new bike. I bought a used bike, you know, and he's just, you know, this huge grin, and oh my God, like I get goosebumps every time I see him, because it was so, you know, it's these little things that we can do, but we don't. You know, I could just pass him on the street and just say, hey, you know, but anyway, I just thought that was, like, because I'm saying it to myself, I need to do that more often, you know, because it's better to give than to receive. Was that Jesus? Or somebody else?
I don't know that Jesus said that one. He might have.
Somebody did.
What do you know? I don't know my Bible.
Somebody did in the Bible. You're the one who knows the Bible.
I know, sorry. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Natalie. And thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
I don't have an example per se, but I think when we think about being generous, we often think, oh, that's going to take my time and my energy or my money or whatever, and so it feels like it's something it's just going to take time. And I think what Bill's story and even Natalie's kind of gives us examples of, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't have to. You can do, sometimes just holding somebody's attention and respecting and listening to them can be enough of a change in their life that somebody heard them, and you don't even know that you made that change. So it can be very simple as, you know, Bill noticing something and sending a gift, or it can be, you know, buying a bike, or it can be, you know, just listening to somebody and sharing with them and giving them the time of day that can change their life. And it doesn't do anything. You don't even realize you do it.
My trite small thing is that now that I have a truck, I pick up hitchhikers.
You throw them in the back.
I feel really more comfortable. You know? And so, a funny story, I'm up to Lagunas Mountain about 12 minutes. And so, one day there was one kid going, going down the mountain, and I was going down the mountain. And so we went like this, so I just pointed in the back, and so we jumped in. So we go another 50 feet, and there's 16 young men walking down the road. And they're going like this. And I'm like, well, I hope the truck didn't do it. They all pile in, and I went slow, would slow down the thing, thank God it was a truck with good suspension, and all those things. They were all just like, buddy, they spoke English words. They're just like, thank you, buddy, and those things. And that little thing is very different than me going, oh my God, my truck, I don't know, and those things. I didn't tell my partner not to because he would not have wanted me to do that. He's watching out for the truck, which is very important for us. So anyway, a little thing. Yeah.
So, with no specifics, and you asked the question about examples of giving and what it does, so on a really sort of high level, but for me, I've just found it very significant in those moments in my life where I've had the opportunity to offer generosity to somebody who's in need. I found that it has enhanced my ability to connect to other people and my sense of compassion, things that I want to nurture and don't always achieve. But those acts are it's fuel for those things. It's active fuel for that. And so I get so much this present.
Absolutely. I always view this kind of as a figure eight. You have something to give, whatever it is, and when it comes back around to you, now you're fed to be a little bigger.
And when someone says, thank you, I can't thank you, or whatever the thing is, I don't really have a vocabulary to say I'm getting more, and I'm actually, I don't feel guilty, but I know that I don't have a vocabulary usually just to say it's fine, but I know it's like my tank's getting full.
Yeah.
And then there's no question.
Dan, you have something. Thank you.
I was just going to point out that just like Buddha and Jesus and all these wisdom pathways share the same answer, science does the same thing.
Okay.
And I'm going to butcher what the study was, but they studied a group of, I guess, employees, that they divided the people into the givers, the reciprocators, and the takers.
Okay.
And then years later, they analyzed these people to see if they had thrived in life.
Yeah.
And the top group was?
The givers.
Okay. The middle group was who? The middle
Reciprocators.
group was both the takers and the reciprocators. Who's at the bottom?
The takers.
Who's yours?
The givers. And the givers at the bottom, and this is what I didn't understand, because I spent my life giving to people.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do this.
You can.
I spent my life giving to people without understanding the balance. You can't pour from an empty cup. And so the givers at the top were the ones that were balanced. They knew to give to themselves. The ones at the bottom were givers, and they gave it all away at the expense of themselves.
Very good.
So it's
study.
balanced. It's not, and it's great to hear you talk about all these little things, all these random things, and those are fine because those don't take anything out of us. But and it goes back to perspective. If you're doing this grudgingly, I'm supposed, like in AA, we're supposed to offer service. But if I'm offering service because I have to, it's worthless. It's not good for you and it's not good for the receiver.
Beautiful, Diane. Beautiful. That fits beautiful with the equanimity that was a part of this talk.
I've had a couple of friends over the time kind of in line with that a little bit, where they're so generous all the time that they can't receive anything from me. So like when they show up for dinner, they always bring more than like, oh, it's a potluck, bring a dish, way more. Like 5 bottles of wine, great, and all sorts of
What are their names?
Canada, sorry. And then when you try and do the same back again, they're like, oh, well, I need to give you this now. they can't seem to take that back. And I'd say to her, stop, say thank you, and just take it. And I don't know, I used to find that frustrating sometimes, because, well, I don't know why I find it frustrating, because it's not my problem so much, but it's like they're going to give and give all the time and end up on the bottom of the pile if they don't learn to just receive.
The practices of meditation and the Dharma and chanting and prayers and all of the things that are part of the Buddhist tradition are meant to give us, continually remind us of the breath going in and the breath going out, and the balance of those. That's the simplicity of it, and the balance, the equanimity of it. And when we do that, our cup is never empty, but it continues to fill. Hey, Marjorie.
We did a girls' trip recently, a couple of months ago. A wonderful group of gals, and we went up to Guatemala. And while we were up there, we went to the World Heritage Site and did all this fun, wonderful textile stuff. But we went to this textile market, and there were a lot of very malformed people who had a lot of disabilities that were sitting there begging. And we don't see that in Costa Rica. I don't see that very much in Costa Rica here. So, at first, and their deformities were different, but I at first, not that I didn't know how to react to it, because I taught multiple handicapped deaf kids, but I was just kept being drawn to them, watching what was going on, and we were with a group, and I was dawdling and getting behind by seeing these people, and I realized people were giving, but they were like almost throwing the money at these people. I don't mean to sound critical, but, and then somebody would scoot over on their hands because they had no legs and gratefully pick it up or whatever. But I decided I wanted to give, but I wanted to interact with them however uncomfortable it was. And it was uncomfortable, and which was crazy, because I'm the one, like I said, with handicapped kids all the time. But these were some very physically challenged people. So I stopped and I said, all right, if I lose them, I lose them. You know, go ahead. And they weren't, my friends weren't doing anything wrong. But it was a very busy market, and we're supposed to stick together and keep the money close to you. And, you know, and here I'm opening up my money in front of all these people. Anyway, I got down on the ground and I opened up my little secret stash, and I took this woman's stump of a hand, and I rubbed her hand, and she burst out crying, which made me burst out crying. And I ended up giving her some money, not a lot, but it's very emotional for me. I don't know why it hit me so hard, but it did. It was a lovely moment. She was very grateful. I stood up and I walked away, and once I calmed down, it was a wonderful feeling, but I was surprised at how emotional it was. Then as I'm leaving, she was at a different place in the market, and she had 4 children around her that I think were her children. And she's like pointing to me, like, that's the lady, that's the lady. I could just tell, I didn't need the words. And all 4 of her children, all 4 of those little kids, who were little, you know, this kind, came running up to me and put their arms around me. And then the whole group of women were very generous and ended up sharing. But it was a beautiful story of not just giving, but how you give. That's what you were talking about. It's how you do it. You can do it to say, okay, I gave. I've got, but I need my 1099 or whatever that thing is to write it off on my taxes. Or you can go out of your comfort zone, because it truly was out of my comfort zone. It was very busy. The girls were taken off, and I was like, I shouldn't open this in public, my stash in public, you know, because of the pickpocketers. But it ended up being something I will always, always remember. It was beautiful. So, yes, give.
I think one of the things is that one of the greatest gifts we can give people is in your story, and that is you see them.
See them. Yes, that was it. To see them.
Eye to eye, you see them. We're Venezuelan refugees in front of the Bay and when you could see them, then you had given a greater gift than what it was you were giving.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so I think that this does not always have to be from our quote riches, from our wealth. It's from the wealth that we have really naturally.
And it's uncomfortable in
Yeah.
some ways.
It is.
And it's okay to say, this is a little uncomfortable, but push yourself into it. Because the payback's big.
One more example.
I got one. I
Okay.
did foster care for like 22 years. I had a social worker phone me and say, I have a boy that's 17 years old. He's got 13 charges against him on 3-year sex assault. Will you take him? Don't say no yet. Just hear me out. So he went on and finally I said, okay, I'll take him. So I took him in, ended up being the nicest kid I've ever had. Still adore this kid. His frustration was, his dad used to be with mom, so when his dad left, he took over being with mom at 5. When I came to my house, he lost all those behaviors and he ended up, I took a little slow, but he ended up being the nicest young man.
Absolutely.
So I gave my heart to him, but
Yes.
taught him right from wrong.
You did, and because that story is coming back to you, the reward for you is enormous.
Right. And that's kid.
Good. We could spend time on when you weren't generous and how that worked
All of us. It's been a lovely morning, don't you?
out. So that's the antidote, you know, when you take both sides of the coin and the antidote, now you're like, okay, I can reflect on that as well. That when I kept it to myself, any of you been through like a divorce case where everybody's like, take what you can get, fight for what you can. This is where everybody ends up being depleted, and if there's lawyers in the room, sorry, they end up wealthy. And you end up all depleted because you have taken what is yours. You have fought for what is yours. And so though we all have stories like that where we can think, boy, by not being generous, it doesn't pay off either. And I feel I have taken from myself. I've taken from my Buddha nature wounds. I resisted my basic pure nature. So this is so give more than a carrot on a string. Look people in the eye. Take opportunities that come to you. Make opportunities come to you. And then you'll be rich. I like that Winston, maybe we should end with that Winston Churchill one. That was a really good one. Glad you liked it. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we get. So let's do a loving kindness meditation. You have to do my version unless somebody else would like to do this.
Your version's fine.
Right? That's right. So you haven't done this before. We pick 5 people. Ourselves first. Someone we love. Someone who's kind of neutral to us. Someone we have difficulty with, or they have difficulty with us. And then the whole world. And then we complete the whole circle of all those things. So put yourself comfortable. Let these people come to mind as we do this. In your mind, say this to yourself as you look at yourself. Ruthie says, as you look at yourself in the mirror, as if you are seeing a reflection of yourself. Say to yourself, I wish you well in health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. So you're walking away from the mirror now, and you're thinking of a person standing in the next mirror next to you, someone you love. And say to them these same 4 couplets. Say to that person, I wish you well and health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. Next, think of someone who is fairly neutral to you. You might know them, you might not know them. You might know their name, you might not know their name. If you don't know their name, you can address them as friend. Friend, I wish you well in health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. So now we go to the next mirror. And we invite someone to stand next to us who we have difficulty with. This will be the hardest one for many of you. Or they have difficulty with you. Invite them to the same space of loving kindness. No animosity. Look them in the eye. Say, I wish you well and health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. And now we move to the last of our loving kindness set of people who need a big mirror, big eyeglass, big picture frame. This is the whole world. All things that are living and breathing here on this planet and who knows where else. And we say to this gathering of enormous community, I wish you well in health. I wish you peace inside and out. I wish you honesty and integrity. I wish you happiness and love. That is the most basic Buddhist meditation, taught very much at the beginning level of studying Buddhism. Yuki does that in one way. I do it in my practice in another way. I pick those 8 words, because those are key words and qualities that I hope for myself and for others. So you can customize this stuff, but that idea about including first yourself, filling your cup, as we talked about. People you love, that's fairly easy. People who are neutral, a little less easy. People who we have difficulty with, even harder. And then the whole world, often we don't think globally like that. So you can do that in private practice. It doesn't take very long. That was 5-7 minutes. A really nice beginning mantra meditation to do it. So let's do Ruthie's ending. Do we know it?
Yeah.
It's written behind you.
So let's read it. Because I think I messed this up. So our other presenter here, among others, does this. So let's read this together out loud. Go in
Peace. Go making peace. Living gently. Loving mightily. And bowing to the mysteries.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff?